Jones is winning the job in New England, so that'll be the opening quarterback that the Eagles have to play against in week one. Most likely Mac Jones, and D-Hop's up there on Thursday. Just again, the market, Tennessee, Patriots, what kind of market is out there? That's not a $23 million circus that he's on right now, where he's going from team to team. That to me speaks that I don't believe that market is out there. Remember what people were saying? He's going to get 23. Remember I told you were absolutely out of your mind if you think DeAndre Hopkins is getting $23 million. That's why I put him in the Eagles room and at the NovaCare Center. $23 million? You better bring that number down to around like maybe 7. He ain't getting that. Some would go, well, Odell Beckham got $13 million. Well, how many people think that's a good deal? Well, Beckham got it. Well, if I ask 10 people, do you think giving a guy who's been hurt for the last 5 years, $13, $14 million in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, you think that's a good move? How many people out of 10 would say that's a good move? I'm hoping all of you would say it wasn't. Why in the world would I hire Odell Beckham at $14 million? Why would I do that? I'm not paying that money for him. He's not worth it. What, because he's good on social media? And he's good on boats during playoff time? I mean, he knows how to use a hookah? What do you want me to do? It's a bad move in Baltimore. How many people think Odell Beckham is going to make the year or he's not going to pull a Deshaun Jackson? He's going to hurt like a hamstring or some shit to collect his dough. It's a dumb move. Nobody's going to give DeAndre Hopkins $13 million because they look at that and go, I don't know. 7 tops. We don't need him in Philly. Yes, you do. Because you got to play the guy in Kansas City if you want to win a championship. And so far, you've proven you can't beat him. And get this. You may have wishful thinking. You've played them 2 years in a row. And they've beaten you different ways, too. Run the ball for 200 yards, beat you in the fourth quarter. I don't know what else to say to you. Outcoached you, outplayed you. In the part of the game that mattered. You know why? Because this guy's here and your guy's here. Well, here, let's be fair. Because this guy's here and the rest of the league's here. It's not a Jalen Hurts deal. It's a league thing. And there's some talented players in the league. And I would add Jalen to that. But it's this kid and the rest of them. There's a reason they've been to 5 straight AFC title games. And they've won 2 Super Bowls. You can't argue this. It is non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable. Last chance Lance, Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy. Yeah, okay. So we're going to see Mac Jones. I'll tell you one thing about Belichick, though, that you have to give him kudos for. Not only has he won 6 Super Bowl championships as a head football coach, 2 more as a coordinator when he was in New York with Parcells. So he's got 8 total Super Bowls, actually. How would you feel about coaching the 2 greatest players in the history of the sport, in Brady and LT? Bill Belichick, the greatest coach, some consider, coached 2 of the greatest players offensively and defensively in National Football League's history. Coach Lawrence Taylor and Coach Tom Brady. I don't know what else to say about that. There is not a coach in NFL history that has 2 players that they coached like that on their resume. Not one. Lawrence Taylor's the greatest defensive football player that's ever lived. Brady's the greatest player that's ever lived. Arguably the most accomplished. It's funny, people start throwing that out. You think Brady's really the most, and he's the best player of all time? Well, surely accomplishments matter. It's funny, though, when we do that, we exclude Bill Russell from the conversation, don't we always? All those 11 championships that he won in Boston. We talk about other people because I don't know why, but Bill's name's never in the conversation. Okay. When did Buddy Ryan coach Walter Payton? I missed that. I missed that. When did he coach Walter Payton? I missed that one. He was the D coordinator in Chicago, not the offensive coordinator. Okay? He was not the OC. He was not the OC. He was the D coordinator. He didn't coach him. You think a defensive coordinator coached the running backs for the Bears? Okay. Yeah, Buddy's coaching. So after he gets done with Singletary, he's going over Walter. Hey, let's do ball drills now. You think that's what he did, really? Wow. You might want to go to a practice one day. Okay? No, but he was the D coordinator in New York. And he was the linebacker coach in New York. Jesus criminy. Can't you? Lawrence Taylor was coached by Belichick in New York. He was the linebacker coach and the D coordinator on those 2 Super Bowls. But he had nothing to do with the offense in Chicago. Holy cow. Oh, my God. Hey, I like it. It's good, though. It shows me where sometimes how I have to over-explain things. It's okay. Hey, JM's going like this. I'm wrong, you win. That sounds like my grandfather. Now, hey, JM, now I'm more pissed off at you. Hey, JM, now I'm more pissed off at you for doing that. Yeah. That's funny, man. That's funny. Hey, we're going to get to the guys that I think that are on the Eagles that could be in the Pro Bowl here in a second, but I'm going to say something about Hey, Tone, maybe we're going to have to mark the tape on this one too, because I can't believe what I'm going to say. This is on Rashaad Penny. How many people believe that the Eagles' number 1 ranked offensive line could play a factor in Rashaad Penny's health this year? This is the best offensive group of talent he's ever played with. I'm thinking out loud here, okay? I'm thinking out loud. And by the way, I'm looking, see, unlike some of you, I'm looking at your side of this now. So let's look at Penny here. Is this the best group of talent that he's ever played with since he's been an NFL player? Wilson is a great talent. DK Metcalf. The O-line's decent in Seattle. But it's not like that in Philly. Okay? It's not like that. It's not. Has he ever played with a tight end? Well, he did play a little bit. I think Jimmy, I don't know if they overlap, but was Jimmy Graham may have been up there. But I don't think Jimmy Graham was New Orleans Jimmy Graham. You know? So, all in all, he really hasn't played with the talent that he's going to be playing with in Philly. So, at the end of the day, you have to turn around and go, well, okay, Sills, you're right. This guy here, we wanted him to be a 250 carry back a year guy in Seattle. Well, that's become evident. He can't do that. Now you've got more of a collection of guys in the backfield too. Would you guys say it was like $7 million worth of running backs? Okay. So you got a collection and a committee of running backs back there. Does that also lengthen his season? To me, Rashaad Penny has to be a guy that you have to at least get to the playoffs. If Rashaad Penny makes it to the playoffs and he's active during the playoffs, that's all to me that I'm looking for. So, do you put this player on a play count? And do you limit his touches? Or do you run this guy and play this guy until he breaks down? See, you have to play his history. Or how about this? You have to manage his history. You have to manage it. How do you use? See, this is kind of what we said the other day about Rashaad Penny. What's his role going to be? How much do you start with a small role or do you start with a large role? And are you looking to do this? Because look, here's something that has failed. This kid in his career is giving him an overloaded workload. He can't last. That's been proven. Now, he's got a better team. One thing I've said here to you, I've never said he's not talented. I covered him when he was at San Diego State. He was a great-looking prospect. And I never saw him hurt like that when he played at San Diego State. He was always out there. He got 2,000 yards. I think 2 years in a row he got maybe 2,000 yards at San Diego State. He's a good player, man. I mean, Rocky Long was the head coach when he played there. And I talked to Rocky about him. Rocky was really high on him. He said, this kid's are great. Arguably one of the best players I've ever had. He's probably the second best back that program's ever put in the NFL next to Marshall Faulk. Okay? Probably. I know Daniel Pumphrey had more yards, and I think he's the all-time leading rusher, and you guys know about him. He was just too small, man, to make it in the NFL. He's just too tiny. When the Eagles drafted him, I was like, dude, that guy won't last through training camp. He's just not big enough. So to me, again, if you manage him right and figure out what his role is. So what would you do if you're Brian Johnson and you're Nick Sirianni? Do you play him full max the first quarter pull of the season and see what you have? And try to figure out what his role is? Or do you manage his health? Don't you think we have to manage his health here? Okay. Sills, was he better than Pumphrey? He was more dominating. Pumphrey was kind of like a college version of Barry Sanders. Because, hey, always remember this. Well, Reggie Bush was electric in college, not so much in the pros. See, you can't do all that juking on corners that you can do in the Pac-12 or in the Mountain West. You can make those juke moves in college. In the pros, you make a juke move on a superstar cornerback like Darius Slay, he'll put you on your back. You're not fooling those guys. Those guys have seen it all. That's the difference in the NFL. You're not fooling anyone in the NFL. You're not fooling anyone. Okay? That's why Reggie Bush had a limited. He was okay. He wasn't great. And Reggie Bush never was the player that people thought he was going to be. Like in college, he was like Gale Sayers. In the pros, he was good. He wasn't good. Like Shady's 10 times the player. Shady's 10 times the player. Byron Westbrook was 10 times the player of Reggie Bush in the pros. 10 times the player. Shit, Miles Sanders is a better back than Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush was okay. I would even say maybe even Mark Ingram, had a better career than Reggie Bush. Reggie just was not the player people thought he was going to be in the pros because he did all that moving around and he thought he was going to shake the secondary guys, and they put him on his head. Okay? Like Christian McCaffrey's 10 times the player Reggie Bush ever was. 10 times the player. It's actually not close. So again, I would say I would go here with you. I would say maybe there's a shot that this guy's going to be playing with better players, and I'm talking Rashaad Penny, that maybe he does last a little longer. The question is how to use him. Better team in the last 27 years, 49ers or Eagles? So that goes into the late 90s. Does that count the Super Bowl? 85, does that count the Super Bowl that the 49ers won with the Chargers? Does that count them beating the Chargers? Does that go back to there? Where Young was there? I think that was 97? 97? Does that go back to that game when they beat the Chargers in the Super Bowl? Eagles went to 5 straight NFC title games in the early 2000s with Andy. Won a lot of games, man. You guys really weren't contenders for the entire 2000 decade. Then you got Harbaugh in the building. I mean, the 2000s weren't very kind to the 49ers after Mr. DeBartolo left. Okay? I mean, after Eddie D left, the 49ers were kind of in chaos a little bit. It wobbled, then it went to the sister. I was in the Bay Area for the time when this whole thing went down. And the 49ers and Mr. DeBartolo, you got to remember something about Mr. D. Mr. D, guess where he moved? He moved to Tampa. And I'm friends with Mr. DeBartolo. He used to come, and anybody who's in here now knows that Mr. DeBartolo used to come on my radio show all the time. And we used to talk, and we were talking about him getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I would say, we would always ask, will the Niners ever get back to being? The Niners had too many voices in the building. There was only 3 when they were building those championship teams in that dynasty. Had John McVay, Bill Walsh, and Ed DeBartolo. Just kind of like what you guys have in Philly now. Philly has 3 people that make decisions, and the rest of them work there. They're worker bees. I love that style. I don't give a shit about asking the garbage guy what he thinks of a game plan. I think that's stupid and non-productive. I don't care what you think. Like, I'm not asking everybody in the building what their thoughts on a defensive football player or on a game plan and who I think I should attack. That I'm not doing that. I'm going to get people I trust and I know that know ball, and I'm going to go with people that I have empowered to help me win games. One of the most important things that you could possibly do for a coach, do you know why most coaches fail in the NFL? Because they hire their own coaches. The buddy system. You don't want to know why Philadelphia's hit grand slams and all their coaches that they've hired? I get you guys didn't like Chip Kelly, but do you know why you guys have completely won? It's because you make all the hires. Any head football coach who hires his guys is an old school guy, doesn't want to go along with management, and then your coaching staff becomes adversarial with the scouting department and the front office, especially when you're talking contracts with players. It becomes adversarial. That's why the Eagles have a handle on hiring their assistant coaches. That's why they handpick the people. Because, again, you're not looking for adversarial relationships. You're looking for people that are getting along and going along with the process. That's why they're winning. And it took a little bit for the 49ers to figure that out. Look, man, Trent Baalke was a shitbag of a general manager. He destroyed that team. Poor draft choices, poor decisions. Front office people like Martin Mayhew were leaving left and right. Nobody wanted to work in San Francisco. Then they hired John Lynch out of the Fox booth. He gets put into a position. John's a cerebral guy. I know him very well. Father lives in San Diego. I know John. I actually worked for his dad. His dad owned a radio station in San Diego. And John went in there and put structure in the 49er organization. But it's been about a decade and a half almost of not very good football in San Francisco. Whereas in Philadelphia, Philadelphia has worked extremely hard at creating a culture that has been rolling along here, whether it's Joe Banner or Howie Roseman or Andy Reid or Doug Peterson, Chip Kelly, Nick Sirianni. It doesn't matter. They've all won under this structure. You can't say the same in San Francisco. So to me, the Eagles have been a better franchise than San Francisco's been the last 27 years. I think that's fair. Now, prior to that, it's not close. From about 1983, 82 to about 1999, 98 in there, the 49ers were the preeminent organization in the NFL. There wasn't anyone better than San Francisco. From 83 to 98, 99, nobody was better than San Francisco. And it wasn't close. 5 Super Bowl championships. I mean, nobody in that time frame won more than what they did. But since 99, it's not been a lot of winning. They've been to 2 Super Bowls, sure, but it's been too much pendulum swinging and too much front office stuff. You fucked up by letting Jim Harbaugh go. How do you fire a guy who's 49-17-1? How do you let him walk out of the building? Because your general manager was being told by the Yorks and by Denise what to do. And they ended up trying to side with Trent Baalke. Well, hey, it's one thing for Jeffrey Lurie to side with Howie Roseman. He's got a track record because he won a Super Bowl in 17. It's another thing to have a track record when you fire Jim Harbaugh. That's my assessment of those two organizations. If you're comparing both of them together, the 49ers have had way more wasted draft choices too. Solomon Thomas, I make fun of it, but Jim Druckenmiller over the decades. Not saying the Eagles have hit on everything. They have not. But their free agent signs have been great. T.O., A.J. Brown, Darius Slay, Hassan Reddick. I mean, bringing dudes like that in, those guys were all impactful football players that led to Super Bowl runs. I mean, shit, the 17 team was loaded with those type of players. So, I mean, the Eagles have been arguably one of the better free agent teams in the last 25 years. I've never seen that thing last year that you guys hit on. I've never seen anything like it. I've totally never seen anything like it. And by the way, over the last 4 years, your drafting has actually improved. 17 of the 22 guys that you have currently on your starting depth chart right now were drafted. That's remarkable. And the only guy in the Super Bowl that wasn't drafted was A.J. Brown on the offensive side. That's pretty crazy great. Every guy that played in the Super Bowl, the Eagles drafted except A.J. That's winning it. How many teams could say that? One guy out of my starting 11, the entire O-line, all the running backs, the tight end, the quarterback, everybody was drafted. Never see that. Never see that. It's pretty crazy great. Remember when you didn't like Hassan Reddick? No, you mean remember when I didn't like the way Jonathan Gannon was using him, and then we realized that Jonathan Gannon couldn't come up with a better way to use him. So what did Howie do? He got you 2 defensive tackles, and when you got the 2 defensive tackles, he took off. That's when I didn't like him. Yes. Remember? By the way, Lucius, he still can't tackle and cover. That's why he's not considered Myles Garrett, Michael Parsons, or any of those other guys. He'll never be in that group. When you're talking the complete package, he's not a complete package. Now, I will say this. He does create turnovers. He might be the better athlete of all those guys. Myles Garrett is going to the Hall of Fame. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He has been the best pass rusher since he came into the league. In his years in the league, well, edge rusher, I should say, because the other guy in Los Angeles might have an argument. But as an edge rusher, he's been the best. And he's been the most consistent. So Myles Garrett, again, as an edge rusher, he's going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right. I want to throw this list at you here. These are the Eagles that I'm looking at. Boy, and it's a long list of guys that potentially could be Pro Bowlers. All pros a little different. Hard to pick that team. A lot of politics in that. Okay? But there's a lot of guys on this list that potentially I see as Pro Bowl guys. Let's start with one, Jalen Hurts. Who's his competition in the NFC this year? Dak, Cousins, Fields. Think about it. Who's his competition? Derek Carr? Daniel Jones? Geno? It's almost by default. Who's it? Aaron Rodgers no longer in the NFC. Who is his competition to be the Pro Bowl quarterback? Shit, this guy could have an average year and be the quarterback in the Pro Bowl for the NFC. Kirk Cousins would probably put up good yards. Probably them in the line. Oh, Jared Goff. Sam Howell. Fields. Jalen Hurts is probably the most sure thing to be a Pro Bowler because his competition, you don't have any competition. Dak? Okay. Again, who's just got to look at who his competition is. As a Pro Bowler, Jalen Hurts has nobody that he's going to, like Jalen Hurts, there's nobody in the NFC. If Hurts wasn't in the NFC, can you guys rank the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC? Take Hurts out of it. Who would be your top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC right now? I can't think of one. Name me 3 quarterbacks that you would put in row, not name Jalen Hurts in the NFC. Who would they be? 3 guys that would compete. Dak, Cousins, and Carr. Probably. Okay. Golf, Cousins, and Purdy. Golf, Cousins, and Dak, I think. And we'll see what Purdy does. Dak, Stafford, and Carr. I'm not high on Stafford this year. I think that team has another losing season. I think when they pushed all their chips in to win the Super Bowl, they pushed all their chips in. I would say Dak, Cousins, and Carr. Those are your 3 guys that Jalen has to compete against this year for the Pro Bowl. I'm pretty confident that kid's going to be the Pro Bowl guy again. It's not a really impressive list. Does Jalen Hurts have the highest upside as quarterback in the NFC? Sure. Sure. It's not an impressive group of people. Now, does Justin Fields? I don't believe Justin Fields has some sort of massive leap like you saw with Jalen had massive talent around him. That guy don't have any talent in Chicago. They don't have any talent in Chicago. What guy in the NFC do you think that's young or somebody with upside? Derek Carr? Okay, maybe. Carr's put up great years with the Raiders. But remember something, you always got to be careful about Derek Carr. Why? Because he played from behind. And when you play from behind and you have a shitty record, hey, look, always look at it this way. If you have a lot of passing yards and you got an under 500 record like Matthew Stafford, I'm not so sure that you're my guy. Because that means to me you've been throwing a lot from behind. I'm not saying you're not good because he got to Los Angeles. They won the Super Bowl with a great play caller. But at the end of the day, he's reverted back to being who he is. Puts up some nice numbers, they lose. Matthew Stafford looks like Detroit Matthew Stafford now. But here's the difference. He's hurt now. I mean, like when I look at Kirk Cousins, I go like this. What makes Cousins so... Why you get mad at Kirk Cousins? They do win games. They do put up wins. And he still loses. And he loses the significant games. Like that game against the Eagles early on last year in the first quarter pole of the season. What was it, week 2? Dude, you got to win that game, man. For people in your own locker, you got to win a game like that for your locker room. Because when you shit the bed like that, people in your locker room go, here we go again. They're just like dumb calories. And again, here's something else here. Well, Jalen Hurts doesn't have a lot of competition in the NFC. That's not a Jalen Hurts deal. Hey, I can't help it. It all goes in cycles, too. Remember, it all goes in cycles. And the AFC right now has the better teams. And they have the better quarterbacks. That's nothing on Jalen. It's just a cycle in right now of where we are in the league. So it's not a Hurts deal. It's no reflection of Jalen that there's no other quarterbacks in the NFC. He has no control over that. So, hey, good for him. He's still got to go out and play. Got to win ball games, and I think he will. Okay, so Jason Kelce's going to be 36 years old. The guy Ragnow in Detroit is probably right there with him now, only because of age. Kelce knows how to prepare. He lost Seumalo. Does that play a factor in him making the Pro Bowl this year? You don't have a guy who played Pro Bowl quality football in Isaac Seumalo. Wasn't he an alternate? I thought Seumalo was an alternate Pro Bowl guy. So I thought he was an alternate Pro Bowl. And so you got a Pro Bowl type guy on the right side and he's gone. How does that affect you? By the way, that O-line didn't have a very good Super Bowl. Chris Jones in that unit pushed him around a little bit, and they couldn't run the ball as effectively in the second half, could Philadelphia, or the coaches didn't want to do it. So I still think Kelce makes the Pro Bowl. So to me, Jason Kelce, center, I think he's a Pro Bowl candidate. By the way, so you guys know, I have to turn my ballot in on my preseason team for the NFL alumni. So I have to turn my NFL alumni ballot in on who I think are Pro Bowl preseason candidates. That's kind of where we are here. And I appreciate your help. Okay? And I'm doing the Eagles here. I'll do a full team. Maybe we'll do a full team tomorrow and I'll show you the ballot. Because I gotta turn in my preseason ballot. I gotta do a preseason ballot for my All-American team and for my Pro Bowl team. By the way, real quick, my top 10 college football. I turned in the other day my Associated Press ballot, and I'm not going to give the top 20 because it's stupid, but the top 10. I got Clemson at 10. I will never put Notre Dame in the top 10. They're frauds. Notre Dame is not a top 10 program. They're not a top 10 program. They have a top 10 identity. That's all they have now. They'll never win a national championship. Brian Kelly tells you that. I got Clemson 10, Tennessee 9, Penn State 8, FSU 7, USC 6, LSU 5, Ohio State 4, Michigan 3, Bama 2, and Georgia 1. Big Ten has some pretty good teams in it this year. 1, 2, 3 Big Ten teams. There's 4 SEC teams, 2 ACC teams, and 2 ACC teams. No Big 12 teams. Yeah, that sounds right. I don't think there were any Big 12 teams. Number 3, Lane Johnson. There's really not a debate. I was asked when I put my ballot together, for the preseason All-Pro team or preseason Pro Bowl team. There are certain guys that are on that. I've been doing this for such a long time. And I'm a big fan of doing this. Number 4, here's where we start getting. I got Jordan Mailata here. Left tackle. I will be very disappointed if Jordan Mailata does not make the Pro Bowl this year. It's time for him to kind of kick it up a bit here. Look, hard to say that to a guy 5 years ago that didn't know how to put a mouthpiece in. So I have to temper that. And remember, see, Jordan Mailata is a first-round talent who was drafted in the 7th round because he didn't know the game. He has so many excuses on why he's where he is. And actually, it's utterly remarkable where he is. He's a $14.5 million a year guy who's just learning the position. I would tell you that on your O-line and maybe on your entire team, Jordan Mailata is your best athlete. I would say that if I had to pick your best athlete on the Eagles, it's Jordan Mailata. How many guys have you ever seen 6'8" move like that? How many guys have you ever seen at 6'8", 380 pounds look like he's 238 pounds? He is this guy's carved out of a steak at 370, at 6'8". He is if he stood on all fours, he would look like a small horse. Dude, he is, like a thoroughbred. He is some athlete, man. It's like watching Shaq. That's what Shaq would look like. Shaq's 7'1", but he's kind of right there. Dude, I would make the point to you that there has to be so few athletes in the NFL that are as athletic as that guy. He makes everybody else on your football team look small. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Lane Johnson all look small next to him. Dude, he's got a waistline like this. Incredible. That's rugby for you. I know, man. My daughter's working out right now, getting her body ready for her upcoming season when it comes to rugby. By the way, they finished 3rd in the country last year. So, and she's the captain of the team. Most violent sport I've ever seen in my life. I've never cried more in my life. Hey, you should see Big Sills at a rugby game. I'm not very good with the refs, as you can imagine. And I'm constantly looking at the clock, wishing the clock to count down because I don't want her to get hurt. Holy cow. She got banged up a little bit last year. Man. Look, I've broken every bone in my body. But when my daughter gets hurt, my daughter's broken her shoulder blade when she was younger in high school. And she goes, "What do you think, Dad?" I go, "Here, let me show you what I did." My daughter, we took pictures, sent them to my aunt. My aunt was furious. My daughter broke her shoulder blade. She goes, "What do you think, Dad?" She's crying. And I go, I started crying too because I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I was so proud of her, man. She's one tough chick, man. Oh, man. She's tough. Brings tears to your eyes, man. Hey, Cole wrote a book for you, right? I don't read it. Because you should see me at it. Hey, I'm terrible with refs. Hey, ref, I got $100 in my pocket. Keep it fucking fair. Man, everyone's like, please, you're going to get us thrown out of here. I'm going, hey, you're bullshit walking them down. What are you doing? What are you, a cousin? Or are you married to the coach? Oh, my God, it's not good. And get this. I catch myself going like this. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm doing it. JM goes, stop humanizing yourself. It's harder to hate you. Yeah. Hey, no, just remember this, JM. I'll always pull a Howard Eskin on you so you could always kick my ass. Because that's what Howard does. Howard just kind of like twists them off. By the way, I happen to agree with him. Joel Embiid will never lift the Bill Russell trophy in his entire NBA career. And he'll never lift the Larry O'Brien trophy in Philadelphia. He is not going to do what that guy did in Denver. Never, not a chance. Not a chance. The organization's not there to build around him. He doesn't have it. I don't think he has that it factor. That guy in Denver, man. Dude, that guy was drafted 40th? Good grief. He was drafted in this. Was that guy really taken in the second round? Boy. Hey, man. That guy, so now he has 2 MVP awards and a finals MVP and a world championship. And he's the first guy to deliver the championship to Denver. Okay, well, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, crazy. All right, so I think Mulata. So now you got 4 guys. Here's arguably one of my favorite players. I love Landon Dickerson. You know what's funny? Pro Football Focus has Isaac Seumalo ranked ahead of him. And I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Dickerson's better. He's bigger. He's on the left side. I don't think he's better. I don't think he's a better player. I really don't. I don't think he's better, man. So I got Landon. I'm going to stop there and take a timeout. We'll do a timeout here, and we'll do the other 5. So as of right now, the Eagle players that I have that are my Pro Bowl preseason candidates: Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson. Those are my 5 so far. We're going to take a timeout. I'll come back with the next 5. We'll do it right here on the National Football Show.